So the C3 is a localized cleanliness tester, and in a nutshell, what we're trying to determine with the C3 is, are there enough conductive residues present in an area of interest to cause issues in the field? Normal working environments, given available atmospheric moisture, can those contaminants draw in enough moisture to set up electrical leakage cells or electrochemical migration events? So one of the benefits of the C3 is, instead of doing a full bore extraction, which can normalize out pockets of contamination, the C3 is looking at a very specific area. It's a localized extraction tool. It's 0.1 square inch area. That way we can focus on the area of interest for cleanliness evaluations or failure analysis, things that would normally be hard to verify with a full board analysis. We invented the C3 really for an internal use initially. It was a way to do non-destructive extractions for ion chromatography, looking at a very small area. But once we got through this and we started talking about the equipment with some of our customers, like, hey, we'd like to have one of those online on our production line to do process monitoring. So it just kind of morphed from something that we needed to do internal to something that has been widely recognized in the industry, and we now have 500 and some units around the world. The C3 is used in many different places in a contract manufacturer's facility. It can be online, it can be after a reflow or a wave solder process to determine if the flux has been fully complexed and rendered near benign as designed by the flux manufacturers. A lot of larger manufacturers also have them in their internal labs, so they're using them the same way that we use them here at Foresight. So there are several different ways you can use it, just depending on what you need. Some of the changes that really I think the C3 has brought on is looking, one, and I think the most important thing is looking at localized areas contamination. The second thing that we're seeing is more customers using them not only in line with the manufacturing process for monitoring, but they're also using them in their internal labs to test not only printed circuit boards, but housings and materials that come in contact with the PCBAs. Anything that can cause a failure in the field that's related to the assembly can be tested with the C3. One thing I always say, the C3 is not looking for flux residue, it's looking for conductive residues regardless of the source. So we don't want to pigeonhole the C3 and say that it's a cleanliness tester for PCBs or PCBAs. It can test anything. It does not know what it's looking for outside of conductive residues that can become soluble. One of the things that the C3 is really good for is incoming cleanliness checks. So a lot of suppliers of materials will give you a certificate of conformance for some testing they've done, legacy-wise. But with the C3, we can look at component cleanliness before they go to the floor to be assembled. We can look at bare printed circuit boards to determine have they been rinsed properly after some metallization process. So the C3 is definitely being used at contract manufacturers for preventative measures to determine, can this be put together and not risk electrical leakage in the field because of bad materials, not necessarily related to their assembly process. So with the C3, you get a clean or dirty reading at the end of it. So your basic data output is, is this a go, no-go test? If you find that you have failing C3 results, you can now take the solution that is used for the extractions and send that to Foresight for further testing with ion chromatography. And then that will give you the real data of, what is this material? And then we can use, our expertise and experience to say, okay, this is high in anions, cations X, which is normally a signature of this material or, this process. So we're able to use the C3 to do the localized extractions at a manufacturing facility. If they have an issue, they come to us, we'll go more in detail with the data and then be able to make recommendations to say, okay, we see these levels of these ions, so we recommend looking at this process. And then from there, it could take us one of 100 different ways to remedy the issue. But the first step is seeing a failed C3 result. In terms of increasing the reliability of your product in the field, the C3 localized extractions in combination with the Foresight expertise and additional analysis that we can do here in our lab have proven to be a great combination for many of our customers for longevity, for reliability, and really just increasing the value of your product by doing this testing up front instead of on the backside.